Jacob, great expectations. Great expectations. And we'll go through it slowly, and I believe we'll experience God in a way that we've never, we're in a brand new way. I said it that way, experience God in a brand new way. So I'm going to go get these verses right here in Genesis 28, and probably ain't going to be worth nothing until next week. But, because I gotta go up to them, you know what I mean? So Genesis 28, I'm going to start at verse 18. And Jacob rose up early in the morning, and he took the stone that he had put for his pillows and set it up for a pillar, poured oil upon the top of it, and he called the name of that place Bethel. But the name of that city was called Luz at the first. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me, and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat, and raiment to put on, food and clothes, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God. And this stone which I've set for a pillar shall be God's house, and of all that thou shalt give me, I sure will give the tenth unto thee. I know that sounds like Jacob has bargained. We'll talk about this more next week, you know, God if. But that's what that word if there means since. Okay? Jacob at this point is not cutting a deal with God. And you'll see next week, but he's saying, since you'll be with me and keep me in this way, and I know that you'll give me bread, and you know what I mean? So, that's what he's talking about right there. And I love how the next verse goes. And after he says all that, then it says, then Jacob went on his journey. And that's where we were last week, his journey into the heart of God, journey into the discovery of who God is. So here goes Jacob. He's going on his journey. So we're going to go over Jacob's story here. Now, most of you guys know Jacob's story. It's probably old news. Most of you may have learned it in Bible school, Sunday school, something. So you know it. You know that Jacob took his brother's birthright. You know that he had a brother Esau who sold his birthright for a pot of soup. We know that Jacob lied to his dad when his dad was blind. And we know that Jacob had a scheming mom named Rebekah, who would help him with his lying and treachery. We know that Jacob had to flee his brother Esau and flee down to Syria to Laban, who was as crooked as he was. We know that Jacob wanted Rachel and got duped and stuck with Leah. We know that Jacob wrestled with God at Peniel. We know that Jacob ended up in Egypt through his son Joseph. We know these stories. But hearing it in little bits and pieces, we miss what the whole story's about. And if you don't know what the whole story's about, then it's just a little history lesson to you. But all these stories are connected with one theme. One theme. This theme is summed up in two words: blessing and birthright. Blessing and birthright. Now, I might as well be speaking Greek to you, because in today's society, we know very little about blessing, and we know squat about birthright. It means nothing to us in the Western culture. Neither does covenant, for that matter. We're contract people. But it's blessing and birthright. The blessing and birthright is why Jacob cheated. It's why he did what he did. It's why he cheated Esau. It's why Esau sold. It's why he lied to his dad. It was all over blessing and birthright. Now, if they did all of this because of blessing and birthright, I think it would behoove us to take our time a little bit and see what blessing and birthright mean. Because, I mean, something that's so precious here, right? Something is so precious. I could go in and cheat my brother and lie to my dad because I've got to have it. No, whatever cost, I've got to have it. We got to understand that. These ain't just little stories. There was something at stake here. Blessing, birthright. So what do they mean, blessing and birthright? Birthright, I'm just kind of skipping rocks here across the pond. Birthright was something that was given by the father to the eldest son. He would, as he was getting ready to pass away, would call his eldest son in and pass the birthright upon him. It was a legal, get this, it was legally binding throughout the tribe. The gifting of the birthright, it meant the eldest son now becomes the chief of the tribe. Okay? The eldest son now is going to take my place. I'm dying, I'm handing this over to the eldest son. He's going to take its place. And it also meant that all of the inheritance that the father had that would be distributed out throughout his whole family, a double portion of that would go through this birthright to the eldest son. And which all of that means, I mean, he's going to become now the ruler, so it's a very responsible, important position. You had, I mean, you know, this wasn't, you didn't give the birthright to some floozy, because he's going to be the leader. All right? It's going to be his job now to take care of the rest of the tribe. So I'm giving him all of the resources to take care of the people. I'm giving him a double portion. He's got all the resources. I'm putting him in a position of authority. Plus, something else would take place here. It would be done throughout. I mean, all the people would know it. It wasn't something done in the dark. So that way, you know, I couldn't come up and say, well, he gave me the birthright. Well, I didn't see it. Well, he gave it to me, you know, if you got multiple sons there. Normally, it was handed down to the eldest son. And then, after he gave him the birthright, he would bless the son. Now, this is not something like what we do today, I bless you. This went right along with it. Now, what are we talking about here with blessing? Notice, we're talking about Abraham's children here. So, it was very, very special. Now, a lot of cultures would do this, but this is very, very, very special in Israel. Because what it meant was you were receiving the blessing of the covenant that God had made with Abraham. Now remember, we got two different things. We got birthright, we got blessing. We know what the birthright is. It's the double portion. It's this responsibility. It's you're now in charge and you're going to be responsible. And then the blessing comes as the blessing of the covenant that God made with Abraham. So the eldest got the birthright, he got the double portion, but because we're the family of Abraham now, you will receive extra to the birthright. You would receive the blessing of the covenant that God made with Abraham, and that was a lot more complex than just the birthright. We've went over covenant many times here, but I got to touch over it again. Covenant means the binding of two persons together, or two parties together. Binding them. You know, I think in my mind, you remember in the book of Ezekiel, get me two sticks, the house of Judah, and I think the house of Ephraim maybe, and bind them together. It's the binding of two together. We call it a covenant. In marriage is a covenant. Two become one flesh. It's the binding of two together. It's an unbreakable bonding. I don't know if you get that. The covenant is unbreakable. And to these guys, they would make sure you know it was unbreakable, because they would do it with the shedding of blood. They would shed the blood of animals and even shed the blood with themselves, so that you would know the covenant is unbreakable. And then they would swear by themselves and by the God that they worship that if I break this covenant, whatever's done to this animal here, let it be done to me. So they would cut the animal in pieces and walk between it. And their thing was, if I break this covenant, let this destruction come upon me. So you with me here? I'll keep the promises of this covenant is what they're saying, even if it kills me. It meant, here's a new covenant way of looking at it. It meant I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. And generally, we went over this, a little side note here. In covenant, it was always a greater party making covenant with a lesser party. You understand? So it's not, contract is two equal parties coming together, right? I got the amount of money you need, you got the service I need, it's equal. But in covenant, it was a greater party coming to a lesser party, making covenant, knowing you're the lesser party, there is in no way you can fulfill this. But in this covenant, I'm doing it all. But this is what God did. He came into the covenant and said, look, here's how the covenant will be. I will bless you and you'll receive it. That sounds pretty good, don't it? It didn't say, well, if you do this, then I'll do that. He says, I'll be the blessing, you'll be the receiver. What do we say? Amen. Thank you. I mean, that's covenant. Now, that's strange to our Western ears, because in our Western ears, it's always, nothing is free. You got to earn it, you got to work for it, you got to pay for it, you know what I mean? So that's why we're looking at this story here, Jacob. I'll never leave you, I'll never forsake you. You know what that means? I'll never leave you or forsake you. See, we believe that half-heartedly. What it really means to us Christians is, I'll never leave you or forsake you as long as you read your Bible. As long as you pray, as long as you go to church, because God forbid, I can't, God has forsaken me. No, He can't. He swore by Himself, because He could swear by no higher, and seal it in blood at the cross. I will never leave you, even if you do things I don't like. I'll be there with you. I may not like it. You might grieve the Holy Spirit, but I'll never leave you. I mean, do we get that? I will never leave you. Well, I mean, you could go and just leave the church and run away and do whatever. Well, guess what? God's going with you. Because He's in covenant with you. He'll never leave you. And He might be upset with you, and He might grieve, and He might weep, and be standing at the door and knocking. But guess what? Now, see, I told you the gospel's a scandal. Because, in our church, the way we grew up, no way God could bless you. You're not prayed up. No way God could be with you. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. You missed church on Sunday morning. God can't bless you. I'm telling you. His wisdom is beyond me. It makes the wisdom of men foolishness, because that's the reason it's a stone of stumbling, a rock of offense. You mean to tell me He'll never leave me or forsake me? I'm telling you, He'll never leave you or forsake you. It's covenant, okay? So we got birthright and covenant. Now can you see maybe why this thing is so, Jacob wants it so bad? This blessing and this birthright? He desires this thing. And the blessing here also meant that I'll pursue every avenue in order to keep the promises, the bonds of this covenant. I will pursue every avenue. And see, God entered into covenant with Abraham. He bonded Himself God bonded Himself with a human being, with Abraham. He bonded Himself with Abraham. And God came to Abraham with the shedding of blood, and God said, I will keep my promise to Abraham even if it kills me. So God made certain promises to Abraham. He said, Abraham, I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to make you a great nation. It'll be so great that Every time you go outside and look at the stars, you'll say, so shall my seed be. Every time the sand is on your feet, so shall my seed, so shall your descendants be. I'm going to make you a great nation. Now, Abraham's married here to a barren wife. Tell me this thing didn't mean something to Abraham, this blessing. I mean, this thing brought about some excitement. Some questions, but some excitement. I mean, how in the world? I mean, Sarah, you know, God, I believe you. I believe you. It says he believed God. It says he believed God. It was imputed unto him for righteousness. God, I don't know how you're going to do it. I don't know if Sarah really believed, but, you know, she laughed, but that's okay. God had already bonded himself to Abraham. So it didn't matter if Sarah believed or not. You understand what I'm telling you? God had promised it. Sarah could laugh, but God's already bonded. You see what I'm saying? So this blessing. God says to Abraham in these blessings here that I'm going to give you the land of Canaan for your descendants to dwell in. It'll be your promised land. You'll live in that land with all of this with a great end in view. And that, of course, that great end in view was that of all the multitude of people that Abraham would have, he would have one. And through that one, all the families of the earth would be blessed. All nations, it says. But until that one came, he says to Abraham, and part of that blessing, that everyone that blesses you, Abraham, I'll bless them. And everyone that... It meant in this blessing that God would protect Abraham and his descendants in order that the one might come. So it didn't matter. You understand? That's why Israel got in a whole lot of trouble, but God still never left them, never forsaken, because he was going to bring about that one. And of course we know that one was Jesus. That's what Matthew chapter 1 genealogy is all about. It's to show you that that one, that seed, came from the loins of Abraham. That's what he's saying, because he takes the genealogy of Jesus right back to Abraham. Now I want you to get this picture here. Say you're the eldest son in the family. Your father would call you in on his deathbed and he would give you the birthright, the double portion, saying that now you're taking my place, now you're the Lord of this tribe, and then I bestow upon you all the blessings of the covenant of Abraham. And what that meant also was that you will carry this on to another generation. Okay? You're going to pass this on to another generation. God will surround you with his blessing, the presence, the aura of God will be around you. And if they touch you, they will be touching God. And if they curse you, they'll be cursing God. It was saying you are special. You're covenantly favored. But with that, you got an awesome responsibility here. You are to wait upon this covenant God. You have access to him. He's welcomed you into his presence, but you must wait upon him. We're going to do a series on wait upon the Lord here before long. But you must wait upon him. You must study the covenant. You got to understand the covenant. You must guide your children in the covenant. You've got to... you're heirs of the covenant. Your whole family is. And you've got to be ready to bring the next part of God's revelation of the covenant. You understand? You might do that, but maybe you'll be a prophet. Maybe it'll be in your life, you know, how you live or what happens in your life. But then when you die, you'll pass it on to your eldest son or the one that God will show you. So this whole thing is the blessing and the birthright. That's what it's all about. So Jacob's whole life hinges on these two words, blessing and birthright. Blessing and birthright. So, let me introduce you to Jacob's family. I don't know if you guys ever met Jacob's family. Yeah, I mean, if you ever meet people and you wonder how, well, they're like so-and-so, the reason they're like so-and-so, have you ever met his parents? You know, a lot of people do that, I know. And really, it's irrelevant. I mean, a whole lot, most of the time it is, but, you know, guy could have a drunk for a dad, and they could say, well, I don't know, you know, we're talking about his son. His son might be a good person, but we blame it. Oh, I don't know, you know, his dad over there, you know, the acorn don't fall far from the tree, or vice versa. You have a good, you know, church family and have a son, and well. But I want to introduce you to Jacob's family here, because I don't know if you know them. You probably read about them. I don't know if you ever met them. Got Isaac and Rebekah here. Isaac here is the son of Abraham. Isaac began well. He was a great man of faith. Isaac was. I don't know if you knew this and get these little Sunday school pictures out of your head. When Abraham went to offer Isaac up on the mountain, Isaac wasn't a little 7-year-old boy. He wasn't. He was probably 33 years old. And now that's exactly the age that Jesus was when he went to the cross. Abraham's an old man, and Isaac is in submission to his father because he went willingly. So he was a man of faith. I mean, he could have beat up his dad and said, heck no, you ain't sacrificing me. I mean, he could have overpowered his dad because Abraham, he's way old. And he gives himself. But the trouble with Isaac is, he didn't like to rock the boat. Isaac wanted to make everybody happy. Isaac never wanted to upset anybody. Do you know anybody like that? I mean, Isaac wanted everybody to just get along. I mean, come on. Let's just all get along. I don't want to tell you anything that might hurt your feelings. You know? He comes over as patient and gentle, but he's not really patient and gentle. He don't want to bother nobody. He don't want to cause a ruckus. So it looks like gentleness, but it's not. He just wants to go along to get along to go along. You know what I mean? He just doesn't want trouble. Now Rebekah, let me introduce you to Rebekah. Her family knew what kind of lady she was when she come out of the womb. That's how they would name them. You know, like Indians, their name was a sentence. In the Hebrew culture, that's what their names was a sentence. We might say Rebekah, but that's the cut down English version. Her name was a whole sentence. They knew what kind she was when they first saw her, when she came out. Her name means the noose cord. Or let me bring it down to you so you understand. She was a man catcher. Oh yeah, they knew right out of the gate. Whenever a man looks at her, she's got him. She's got him. She's one of them, you know. She's one of them. And you know what? And she knew what she wanted, and she was going to get what she wanted. So she was a schemer. That's what she was. So here, I mean, we got these two together. So now picture this. We got Isaac over here who just wants to get along, don't want to rock the boat, and he's going to be married. Now see, these guys never met. They didn't meet on Match.com. They didn't meet on Match.com. They didn't even date. Abraham sends his servant Eliezer, go down there and get me a good woman and bring her back, and he comes back with this man-catching schemer named Rebekah. I'm wondering, did he make a good choice? Well, see, God knew what he was doing the whole time. So here we got a guy who don't want to rock the boat, wants to make everybody happy, married to a woman who knows what she wants and will stop at nothing to get it. I wonder who's going to rule the roost here. You with me here? These are the parents. These are the parents of old Jacob. But I got to say this about Rebekah. Don't throw her under the bus. She was a very, very spiritual lady. She knew how to go to God. She knew how to go to God in prayer. She knew how to hear from God. And she did it for herself. Now, you might think, well, that's easy. Listen, this is the days of the patriarchs, right? Ain't that what we call it? This wasn't the days of the matriarchs. Women at this juncture knew their place. They didn't go talk to God. They wouldn't talk to God. They told her husband to go do it. They stayed over here in the tent. They didn't do none of this stuff. But now Rebekah, she's I guess one of the first ones of women's lib. She says, I'm going to talk to God for myself. And she did it. And she knew how to hear from God. So she was very spiritual. Knew what she wanted. Went after it. She knew how to pray to God, how to flow in what God said. Now at this juncture, Abraham is still alive. So I've got Abraham, I've got Isaac and Jacob. They're all three still alive at the same time. Now when I say that, this is when Isaac and Rebekah got married, because Isaac was 40 when he got married. He's the rich old man here, and he's Lord of his tribe, and finally, Rebekah conceives, because she was barren too. Rebekah conceives finally, and she has a son. 2 sons actually, but as she conceives, something's going on inside of her. She said, man, it feels like there's a WWE Royal Rumble going on in me. I mean, I know what a baby feels like, kicking. I mean, this feels like something bad is going on. So she asks the Lord. I mean, you can read it in the Bible. She goes to the Lord. I mean, she says, Lord, is there something you're not telling me here? Something I need to know? And the Lord said, yeah, there is something you need to know. What's inside of your womb is 2 nations. There's 2 nations in you, and the elder shall serve the younger. So God He's declared this before they're born, before Jacob and Esau is even born, the battle has been declared. The elder shall serve the younger. Now that's backwards. That's backwards from everything we know. The elder is supposed to get the birthright, and he's supposed to get the blessing. But God says, not on this occasion. The younger shall get the birthright and the blessing. I mean, y'all know the story here, I know, but I just... So here they are, when they're born, the first one comes out, and he looks like a little hairy gorilla. He's all hairy. That's what Esau means. They call him Esau because Esau means hairy. And as they're reaching down to get him, they see a hand that's hanging on to his foot, hanging on to his heel. I mean, there's twins in there, so they're giving birth to this little hairy one. And when he's born, they got him out, there's a hand sticking out that's got a hold of his heel. Usually you come out normal birth head first, but Jacob comes out hands first. He's got his hand out there on the heel. And it's kind of symbolic in many ways, because it's as if he's trying to hold him back. One's being born, and he's trying to, already from the womb, I'm trying to hold you back. I'm trying to overtake him. I'm trying to trip him up. I'm trying to move into first place. So they called his name Jacob. That's what it meant. Jacob meant heel grabber. It meant trying to make one trip. It's got the ideal in it of sneaking up behind you to make you trip so that I can overtake you. So Jacob was born pursuing Esau. You got it? He was born pursuing Esau. In the act of grasping for the blessing. In the act of grasping for the birthright. grasping for what belonged by birth to his elder brother. See, he was in the womb, though. He didn't know. So Jacob, when he's being born, before he even knew what he's doing, he's caught saying, I want that. I know Esau has got it, but I want it. I want it. I'm going to reach out here and get it. No, but nothing's going to stop me. But the truth was, by God's decree, before they were even born, the birthright and the blessing already belonged to Jacob. Now, that's it. If you understand that, you've got it. If you could understand that. I would love to go over into Romans and because in Romans chapter 9 it talks about that very thing. They that are Israel are not all Israel, and Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated. It goes into all of that. But now when you go read it, think about birthing and birthright and blessing. Get it right here. So that you can understand when you go read that, when it says according to the election might stand, he's not talking about election like I chose you and didn't you. It's according to God's decree. God had decreed that the blessing would go to Jacob before they were born. That's what he's talking about. Not I like you and I don't like you before you were ever born. That's the way the world comes and tries to make election and predestination and all of this other stuff. Throw that out. He's saying the blessing belonged to Jacob. And you'll see as we go along here how all of this works out. And I would love to go spend some time in those scriptures there in Romans, but I'm going to skip that for now because But see, when these twins were born, there was something inside of Jacob that made him grab a hold of his brother and say, I want that. I've got to have it. Now, for the first 15 years of these boys' life, Jacob and Esau, Isaac and Abraham were still there. Abraham died when these boys were about 15. Remember, Abraham died when he was 165 years old. Isaac was 40 when he had him, when he married Rebekah. Now they're all together. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they're all together. So I've got this 160-year-old man, probably a 45-year-old dad named Isaac, and a 15-year-old. Quite a spread. Now they would sit around the campfire, Esau and Jacob, as Abraham would be giving them the book of Genesis first-hand account. They didn't break out the Bible and say he would be telling the stories. He would be handing it down about him and 318 men and how he met Melchizedek and how he met God in the smoking furnace and burning lamp. And you understand, he's telling these stories around the campfire, telling them to Isaac. Jacob is listening. Esau is there. They're all hearing the book of Genesis first round account. This is how they did it in those days. Those stories would be passed on from generation to generation. They would hear how God had ordered his covenant or entered into covenant with Abraham and the blessing of that covenant. Jacob is mesmerized. Have you ever seen a young kid that he's mesmerized with what his granddad is saying? He never wants him to stop talking. He's there hanging on every word. Hours could pass by and it seems like only minutes, and he's just mesmerized by what Abraham is telling him. Now, Esau could care less. He's got girls on his mind. He's got partying on his mind. He's an outdoorsman. He's covenant, blessing, birthright. Who gives a hoot, man? I saw a big 8-point buck over here. Have you ever, people like that? They can't talk without talking about, man, I went fishing this weekend and caught one this big. All their mind is hunting and fishing and trapping and, you know what I mean? I mean, right now, hurry up because deer season's in. I mean, I got to go put the corn out. I got to put the salt out, and you know, had to take a loan out for the new rifle and scope and bow, and you know, okay, yeah, we're going to church, but hurry up, hurry up. And I ain't really interested because I got to go check my deer camera out. Got to go check my camera out. You see what I mean? I could care less about it. But Jacob, man, he's all in. Esau, wish the old man would hush. Wish the old man would hush. I know where that deer went. I mean, I got to go. As they grow up, Jacob stays home. Well, when I say stay home, he tends the flocks. Takes care of the flocks and the herds, everything close, you know. And he's watching his father. He's wanting that blessing. He's watching him. I want to see whenever he's about close to die, you know, I want to go in there and get that thing. He knows what blessing means. He knows there'll be an aura of God's presence around him, God's protections. I mean, he watched. Jacob and Esau was there when the famine came in the land of Isaac. Remember, there was a famine with Abraham. Abraham goes down to Egypt. Isaac doesn't leave. But there's still a famine in the land. And you know what Isaac does in the middle of the famine? He planted. You know what he got back in the middle of a famine? 100-fold. You go read it. And Jacob says, man, ain't none of our neighbors got anything. All the corn's dying. Everything's dying. The fruit ain't bearing. The trees ain't bearing no fruit. My dad, Isaac, because he's got the blessing and the birthright, has went out and planted and is getting 100-fold return. I want this thing. I mean, he was there. He didn't read it in a book. He was there, planting, wondering. Dad, you do realize it ain't rained in 7 months. Oh, just Isaac, a man of faith. We'll just plant because we got the blessing of Abraham upon us. You see this thing growing up in Jacob? Jacob was there when the Philistine king, when Abimelech came down there and says, you know what, Isaac, we're scared of you because we know that God is with you. They did. Jacob was sitting right there, and he knew them pagan, evil, Baal-worshiping people came to his dad, Isaac, and they submitted and said, we're scared of you. We know God is with you. Jacob is watching all that. Now, Esau ain't paying no attention because he's out deer hunting. So Jacob's like, I've got to have this. Got to have it. Jacob watched, and he knew that blessing of Abraham. He knew the favor of God meant that no man could be against you. Whatever you touched would prosper. Notice what I said, that he knew no man could be against you. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. No man can raise their hand against you and prosper. That whatever you do, put your hand to. Now, see, we're thinking, you know, and Christians, when they read this today, because they don't know, they don't understand who they are, they don't understand blessing and birthright, and they think, man, I wish I had that. Trust me, Abraham longs to see our day.
Yes, yes.
He had all of this, and yet he longed for our day. Somewhere in there, he sat down with Rebekah, his mom. Now, Rebekah, you go read this. I hope you'll go back and spend some time reading chapter 25, 26, 27, 28. And you'll see that Rebekah loved Jacob. And somewhere in there, she had to tell him, before you were born, God has already made a decree that the blessing and the birthright will be yours. Gradually, as these boys grew, the family divided. I'm giving you a hyper version here. The family divided. Jacob moves to Rebekah. She begins to love Jacob more. She shares her, or he begins to share his spiritual longings and understands with her what the birthright and the blessing is. Now, Isaac, he moves towards Esau. I mean, the scriptures tells you, Rebekah loved Jacob, Isaac loved Esau. So you can see, Each one had a favorite son. Rebekah's favorite, Jacob. Isaac's favorite, Esau. Now, I mean, we know this. Now, Esau, he was a manly guy. I told you he liked to deer hunt. And Jacob was probably a little soft, probably a little wimpy. Jacob, he liked to stay around the tent. You know, when Jacob went camping, you know, people nowadays when they go camping, they don't go camping. They got a camper.
Yeah.
That's a daggone mobile motel room. When you go camping, you roll up a sleeping bag and you go out there and sleep on the roots and the rocks. You know what I'm talking about? If it rains, you get all wet. That ain't camping now. You got refrigerators. That ain't camping. But that's wimpy stuff. That's the way Jacob liked to camp. He was wimpy stuff. Now Esau, man, he'd make him a bed of moss and sleep in a log. You know, he's a manly guy. He's a hunter. He's a backwoodsman. Long beard, rough fighter kind of guy. You don't cross this guy, you know what I mean? He'll punch you in the eye, punch you in the nose, he don't care. Rough, tough Esau. He likes guns and beer and women. Sounds like Hank Jr. Cursing around. I mean, you know what we'd call him? We'd say he's an old rough redneck.
Yeah.
That's what he was. 4-wheel drive, guns, bows, beer drinking, chasing women. That's Esau. That's Esau. Taking off work to go deer hunting, you know. Why does Esau hunt? They're rich. I just told you Isaac had reaped 100-fold in a famine. He don't need to hunt. It ain't like he's got, oh, we're starving to death. That's just his personality. He just wants to get out in the wild. He wants to get away from responsibility. He just wants to eat, drink, and be merry. Just give me the open range. Now, as Esau's doing this, he fell in with other hunters called the Hittites. These old pagan worship, evil weirdos, Baal worshiping, and they all worshiped evil gods. So when they would have a party, Esau didn't care about God or gods. All he cared about was, hey, they're hunters too. They worship this crazy God. I'll worship it too. Let's just get drunk and we'll get up in the morning and go hunting again. That's what they did. He ended up falling for 2 of their sisters. Ended up marrying 2 women, 2 Hittite girls. He didn't have no thought for covenant. As for a double portion of birthright, who cares? Who wants to be strapped down with that kind of responsibility? You know? Isaac loved Esau. Isaac loved to eat deer meat with him. When he would go kill one, they'd come back and they'd have a party and eat the deer meat. Esau was probably the man Isaac always wanted to be. He was living vicariously through Esau. And you see people do this today, you know. I've seen dads try to relive their sports days through their kids. Isaac, you know, I told you he didn't like to rock the boat, and Esau didn't care. So he's like, man, if I had my life to do all right, I'd want to be just like him, man, rough, tough, got women, guns, and deer hunting. This is awesome. I want to be just like my son. Rebekah becomes anxious because Isaac by now should have announced that the birthright and the blessing is going to go to Jacob, but he hasn't announced it yet. He hasn't told everybody. He hasn't planned a party. Isaac knew before the kids was born too. And I told you this thing had to be a legal thing so that everybody knew it. So Isaac, he's put it off. He would have to announce that Jacob gets it, but in fact, the more I watch Isaac, the more he ain't even hanging out with Jacob no more, man. He's spending all of his time with Esau. This thing ain't looking right. I know God has decreed the blessing to go to Jacob, but the way it's looking, Esau's going to get it. I don't know if maybe God's on a journey, maybe he ain't paying attention. I don't know God, but you know. Her little old Jacob that she's loving has got to get this blessing. Know what does say Rebecca's name means? She's a schemer. She's going to figure out a way to get Jacob the blessing. Now Jacob is lusting after this blessing. He craved it. But I want you to know this. God never condemned Jacob for lusting after the blessing. Ever. Never. He had a desire for God. So what is wrong with Jacob's desire for God? What is the matter with this whole picture here? One word. Faith. No faith. Everything in the new covenant is accessed by faith. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. This whole thing hinges on faith. But my God, even though you're blessed, it's of no use to you unless you get it by faith. Everything by faith. So what is this faith? We're going to get a good picture here of faith. Jacob had a great desire, a lust after God, but he didn't have the faith to take it. Remember Romans chapter 5, by grace we have access. By grace or by faith we can take hold of the grace wherein we stand. It's by faith that we access, that we grab a hold of it. So, what is faith? Faith, I'll say it this way, it's my response to God's Word. My response to God's Word. In responding to God's Word, I rest in what He said. See, this comes with identity. So what has God said? God has said to Jacob, He said to Rebekah, He said to Isaac, the birthright and the blessing is yours. So Jacob could respond to that and rest in it. And say, it's mine. But he didn't. Because he had no faith. Now today in the Christian world, what is it? We can tell people, hey, guess who you are? You're co-heirs with Jesus Christ. You're sons and daughters of the living God. But, we don't rest in it. We still think there's something we got to do. We got to go earn it. We got to keep trying to please God. We got to do all these things. So we rest in God's Word. Faith says, I know what it looks like. I know it looks like I'm never going to get it. I know it looks like Isaac loves Esau. But in all fact, who could give the blessing anyway? Who could give the birthright anyway? Only God. Jacob had the desire but not the faith. But they look at Isaac and they look at Esau and they get anxious, they get nervous, and they said, you know what? God needs help. God needs help. He needs our help. Isn't that what we try to do? Except God build the house, they do labor in vain. But yet, we got to help God because it doesn't look like His kingdom is prospering. It doesn't look like it's going to take root here. So I need to do something to help God out. And God will be so pleased. He'll be so pleased that I have joined to help Him out. Jacob looks at disgust with Esau and he thinks, God, this hairy monster, redneck, beer-drinking, woman-chasing guy is going to get the birthright and the covenant blessing of Abraham? No way. And you can just see his look and think, no way. Partying and doesn't marry 2 Hittite girls? No way he could, there just ain't no way. So you see all this coming, raging up inside of him, right? So then here comes the day. Here comes the day. Esau comes in from hunting. He's starving. He smells some red pea soup. Comes in and he hasn't killed anything. And he says, man, I want something to eat. Give me some of that stew. Jacob says, something you want, something I want. This would be a great idea for a good little exchange right here. Tell you what I'll do. I'll give you some of this red lentil soup right here. You give me the birthright. Esau says, heck, I'm about to starve to death. I don't give a hoot about the birthright anyway. Who needs that? Here it is. Have it. Give me some of that soup. Jacob pours him a bowl of soup. And just before he does, he says, I want you to swear to me. Swear to me. Esau said, what's that to me? He did it. So a legal contract is made. And because this pottage is red, they nicknamed Esau Old Red. Y'all know anybody named Red? I know some people named Red. And when they named the nation that came up after Esau, it's called Edom, which means red. And as a matter of fact, you know, we talked about this. King Herod in Jesus' day was from Esau. He was from Edom. King Herod was. From the wrong even descendants sitting on the throne. They're supposed to be of the tribe of Judah through David. So, I mean, this thing stretches all the way forward. And I know why Jacob did it, because he lusted so much for that, for the blessing and the birthright. He was so afraid Esau would get it. But the birthright was never Esau's to have anyway. So, I mean, you ever think about this? How could Esau sell something that was never his? And how could Jacob wheel and deal and scheme to get something that already belonged to him? It's a stupid transaction. That would be like me going out and saying, you know what? I want to buy my car off of you. You would think, what? It's already your car. But I'm going to make payments to you for my car. Well, that's stupid. A whole lot of Christian thinking is stupid. A whole lot of it is stupid. I don't know another Bible word to use. What I'm saying is, whenever you try to work for God's gifts, you'll always wonder if you got them. Only faith has the inner witness. Now, as we go on in the story here, and I know I'm watching my clock, I got 7 minutes. As we go on in the story here, I told you Esau's got he married these 2 Hittite women. These pagan, Baal-worshiping, monster, heathen women. Now this thing grieved Isaac and Rebekah. Rebekah comes to Isaac. Isaac, you got to do something. You know your oldest boy out there, man, what he's doing. You got to do something. What did I tell you Isaac was? He don't want to rock the boat. He don't want to step in and be responsible. He just wants to even kill, let everything be fine. If Rebekah would have been in charge, she'd have slapped him upside the head. Wake up, boy. But not Isaac. He don't want to cause any trouble. So he says, I tell you what, let's just have another feast with Esau. But see, Isaac, he's getting old before his time. He's going blind. And this is more so of his spiritual condition. He's the blessed of God. He shouldn't be blind at this age. But he's lost something. He's lost his senses. He's gone far from the faith that he started with. So he calls in Esau and he says, you know what, Esau, I'm dying. So I'm going to give you the blessing. Now, he didn't tell Rebekah this is going to take place. Because he knew what Rebekah would say. He knew Rebekah would argue with him, didn't want to have an argument. And honestly, that's no way to pass on the blessing. Normally, it's a big assembly in front of the whole tribe. It's not done in secret. So he says, Esau, go kill me a deer. So when you come back, you cook that thing up, we'll eat it, and I'll bless you. Now, Rebekah, she's got ears everywhere. She's got spies, something. She heard. She thought Isaac might do a stupid thing here. This thing's supposed to go to Jacob. Esau's been doing stupid stuff. make a quick decision here. God's word's going to fail if we don't act now. We got to do something right now. So she says to Jacob, I got a plan. See, if Jacob really knew that he already had the birthright, what would he be doing all this for? But see, over here he just had made Esau swear that he had the birthright. But see, he doesn't really know he's got the birthright, because I told you, without faith, there's no inner witness, and you don't know if you got what you already got. So, I mean, that Paul wasn't praying for the church to get something they didn't have. He would always pray for the church for their eyes to open up to see what they already had.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Rebecca said, now look, I'm going to go cook some goats. The old man, Isaac, his senses are so gone, he won't know the difference between eating a goat and a deer. He'll never know the difference. Jacob says, hold on a minute, Mom. You know there is a little difference between that hairy monster and me. I mean, he's all hairy, I'm smooth as a baby's butt. Huh? Isaac ain't that stupid, he'll know. So she says, I tell you what, the goats that I kill, we'll take them skins and we'll put on your arms and on your neck, and we'll put Esau's old smelly clothes on, and you'll go in. And now Jacob is scared. He said, Mom, what if I go in there and he finds out and he curses me? She says, well, let it be on me. That's what she says. If he curses you, let the curse be upon me, because God told me you was going to get the blessings, and we're going to see to it. Now Jacob goes in. Well, they have no idea. They don't have no idea when Esau's coming back. So you can imagine the tension here. What if old Harry Esau, big redneck, comes in right now in the middle of me getting a blessing? There's going to be a thumping going on. That he doesn't come home. So there's a lot of tension here. He goes into Isaac, and Isaac says, man, you smell like Esau, you feel like Esau, but sound betrays you. You sound like Jacob. Now, they're slowly eating. You know, Isaac, he's blind, so they're slowly eating. I can imagine Jacob's going like, choke it down, Dad. Choke it down. Let's get on with it. Hurry up. I think I hear a horse coming. I mean, it could be. Could be Esau riding in on his big quarter horse. I don't know. Hurry up. Give me the blessing. Finally, as they get done eating, he puts his hands on Jacob to give him the blessing, but he doesn't give Jacob the blessing. And I know you're thinking, yes, he does. No, he doesn't. He gives Jacob the birthright. He gives him the birthright. Because Isaac is thinking, I can't give Jacob the blessing because the blessing is already promised to Jacob, and this is Esau. So I'm going to give him the birthright. He's like, God, no, I came in to get the blessing. I already had the birthright, and he gave me the birthright. God, no. Can you see what a mess this is? Man, I told you never read the story like that at all, have you? Yeah. Imagine Jacob, what Jacob is thinking. He wanted the blessing of the covenant. He didn't get it. Jacob goes out upset. He's hardly at the door. Here comes Esau. Esau is riding in. Esau runs in and says, Dad, I'm here. Isaac began to tremble with fear. Oh my God, great fear. I've been tricked. I've been duped. There's a rage in Jacob. Esau realized that Esau began to cry bitterly. Cry like a baby screaming. Dad, is there not another blessing for me? I'm sorry. He says, Dad, when you're dead, I'm going to kill Jacob. I'm going to kill Jacob. That's all there is to it. Now, Rebecca heard. She got spies everywhere. She heard what's going on. So she says, Jacob, go back. Come here, Jacob. I want you to go back to Syria. Go down there to my brother Laban. Go down there where I come from and find your wife. Do not dare marry one of them Hittite women. Go back there. And she goes back to Isaac. and says, you know what? Jacob's supposed to have the blessing. Now you can go read this. Chapter 28, verse 1. He goes back to Isaac and says, you know Jacob gets the blessing. So Isaac calls in Jacob, and he blessed him with the blessing of Abraham. But now think what Jacob is thinking. Is he sincere? Did he mean it? Think of all the confusion, everything that's going on, the crying, the screaming, all this struggle to get what only God can give. You're never sure when you go about it this way. Jacob bought it from Esau, tricked his father. His father doesn't give it, and now when he does, his heart's not in it. You see what I mean? Because Jacob's like, well, I know God said, here's the blessing. It's like, man, I wanted the ceremony. I wanted everybody around. I wanted everybody to know. I wanted it to be. I wanted your heart to be in it. That you just smiled when you gave it. Not, here it is. You see all this trouble that's been caused? So Jacob leaves, still not knowing if he really has the blessing, because only faith in the grace of God produces that inner witness. And apart from that, all your life will be an endless struggle, trying to get what only love can give, trying to get what you already have in Christ. And from that, Jacob heads down to Luz and ends up there at Bethel with a stone for his pillow. And that's where I'm going to quit right there, guys. So we just got to set this thing up. We got to set it up. But you understand that only faith can grab a hold of. There's so many people in the church world today that haven't. I mean, you didn't get partially blessed. You didn't get a partial spirit. You're filled with all fullness of God. Yes. You're God's children. The birthright, the blessing, the covenant, you're in it. That's who you are. There's no struggle. But you see, we always are trying to struggle to do something. I mean, there's no way that God could bless you with something until you do this. Right? Or until you keep this going or whatever. That's what we do.